Welcome to Deep Dive. I'm Kevin Benedict, your host for today's program, and I want to thank all of you guys for joining us today. I'm excited to have Jessica Fewless with us today. Jessica is the Vice President of ABM Strategy and Marketing at Demandbase. So thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, Jessica, I understand when doing some research about you that you're a stand-up paddleboard racer. Talk to us about that.
I am. Yeah, I picked that up probably about 6 years ago. Before that, I was a triathlete, but kind of a recovering triathlete now because, knees and such. But moved to stand-up paddleboarding and outrigger canoeing about 10 years ago, which, the stand-up paddleboarding is kind of an individual sport. The outrigger canoeing is a team sport with five other women in a 400-pound boat that travels across major bodies of water. So it's pretty fun.
Well, that's fun. I also understand you're an avid chef and even more avid than other avid chefs. Talk to us about that. I bet there's a connection between burning calories and being a chef.
In fact, there is. Because I do love cooking. I'm actually from the Midwest, and that's kind of, how I was brought up, was doing a lot of cooking. But I like to kind of take the Midwest out of it and make it a little bit healthier. So one of my favorite hobbies is to go to, really nice restaurants, have great meals, and then figure out how to recreate them at home, but on a much healthier scale.
I can understand that, traveling, being a person that travels a lot myself too.
Yeah.
So very interesting. So how did you end up in marketing? And not only in marketing, but as a marketing leader?
Yeah, kind of a circuitous route, actually. I started my career out in sales. I had gotten a degree in marketing, and when I did that, everybody's like, great, so you're going to have to go into sales first. And so I did. I worked for a company based in Wisconsin that flew me out here to cover Northern California. Obviously, I've never left since then, but I started out in sales, and then, that was around 2000. Then I went into my first startup down in Silicon Valley, and then that company got sold. So then I ended up in the nonprofit sector doing nonprofit fundraising and development. Follow on from that, I ended up back in the tech space at two larger tech companies, and then ended up here at Demandbase. So if you had asked me at the age of 18, so are you going to find yourself in Northern California and a marketing leader at, a high-tech startup? Never would have crossed my mind. But here I am today.
Absolutely. So now you're not just in marketing, but you're a marketer at a marketing company, marketing to marketers.
Exactly.
Is there more pressure in that role?
No, it makes it so much more fun. Yeah, it's great. And what I've actually been able to do is kind of combine my early sales experience with my marketing role, because we are marketers to marketing to marketers. So it's really easy to put together a campaign, because it's like, how would I want to be sold to? How would I want to be talked to?
Absolutely.
And then from that perspective as well, I spend a good 40% of my time on the road actually doing pre-sales. So I go in with our sales team and just have a peer-to-peer conversation with the folks that they're trying to sell to, and so I'm able to have a much more real conversation with them than they can. And so our sales team just sits there and takes notes while we just talk about, lead gen and pipeline acceleration and this and that, and, and just, oh my God, yeah, I've had that problem too. And, it makes for a really fun conversation. So it's great for me. That's the fun part about marketing to marketers.
So for those that might not be aware what's important about account-based marketing, why don't you just share with us what's important about account-based marketing, and how closely does this growth in account-based marketing, popularity in that, and the growth of Demandbase, are they parallel? Are they the same? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so account-based marketing, honestly, when I was doing research to find my next role, which landed me here at Demandbase, I was kind of looking around and at a lot of MarTech, because that seemed to be kind of like a really rapidly growing space. And it was really interesting too. It's like, MarTech is going to allow me to, increase my efficiency and do a lot more than I can just do manually, right? This is the place, and this is where you need to be as a B2B marketer. And so I was doing a lot of research and coming up with a lot of marketing automation solutions and those sorts of things. And then I landed on Demandbase and started reading about account-based marketing. And having had that sales background, I'm like, good God, this makes so much sense. Why haven't we always done this? Right? And so so that sold me on Demandbase, and then fortunately I was able to sell myself to Demandbase, and they hired me.
Yay.
But back almost 6 years ago now when I joined Demandbase, account-based marketing was not a household name. It was, Some people were talking about it, but it was kind of the ITSMA definition of account-based marketing, which was one-to-one. One marketer focused on one strategic account, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't seen as scalable.
Got it.
And so it was only really kind of a strategy for the top tier companies, the Fortune 500 that actually have the resources to be able to do that, and kind of those accounts of that size that warranted it. So enter Demandbase, which now was able to bring kind of the powers of that personalization and that kind of one-to-one type of feel, but to a broader spectrum, to kind of more of your entire demand gen.
So they can scale up.
Yep.
Okay.
So now it wasn't just the top 10 companies that were either existing customers or you wanted, but now you could take a look at the top 1,000 companies.
So tell us, Jessica, how would you distinguish account-based marketing from traditional marketing? What is done differently in those two spaces?
Yeah, so it's definitely, it's a quality game versus a quantity game. Okay. So the main difference is, and I think a lot of folks are afraid of account-based marketing because they're like, oh my God, it's going to be this massive change management type of exercise, and we're going to have to throw out our entire strategy and start anew. The fact of the matter is it's not that hard. It's literally taking a look at what you currently do from a marketing perspective and taking a look at your ability to leverage all of those tactics to get to your target account list and to drive revenue, right? And if you take a look at everything from that lens, it's not that hard. It's like, hey, okay, maybe this tactic doesn't work for that, but another one over here does, or maybe it's just a shift in vendors that can focus on your target account list versus those that can't. So it's not like you have to throw everything you know about marketing out the window, but it's just having that lens on that target account list first and foremost that you share with your sales team, and the rest kind of falls from there.
So account-based marketing is data dependent, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So is there a parallel growth curve with this massive volume of new data that we have because of digital interactions and things and available data?
Yep.
Is that what made account-based marketing scalable?
In part, yeah. And I think what it does is, we've been inundated with data. We were told, starting, call it 6 years ago, that we needed to be data-driven marketers.
Yeah.
But then we had all this data, and what do we do with it?
Yeah.
Right? And there wasn't a lot of context for it.
Oh.
So it was a matter of, you would look at all the data on your website and say, well, okay, here are the top performing web pages, and here's where people bounce, and look at those numbers in aggregate. Well, there's a lot of junk in those numbers, right? There's a lot of people that are never going to buy from you that are on your website, that are, your competitors are on your website. There's job seekers on your website. So when you can strip all of that out and only look at that data from your target account list,
then you get some really meaningful data.
Meaningful, actionable data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So how have you seen marketing strategies in the nearly 6 years that you've been here? How have you seen your customers, their marketing strategies evolve during that period of time?
Yeah, in a big way. So, like I said, there were a lot of folks that were really afraid of account-based marketing and what to do. And I think, marketers have just gotten far more savvy. It's not this numbers game and, okay, let's put as much as we can in the top of the funnel in the hope that, 0.3% will actually flow through to close one business, right? It's much more thoughtful. It's much more strategic. It's definitely a partnership and a sharing in the revenue goals that we've never had before, which for a lot of marketers was scary. Like, well, I can't be responsible for revenue. Like, that's sales' job.
I can bring you leads, sales have to close it.
Right. And the fact of the matter is, with account-based marketing, we have this shared goal around these accounts. And it's not just about lead gen or even demand gen, but rather pipeline acceleration. So that's been kind of a new muscle that marketers have had to exercise is, okay, so once something's in the top of the funnel, how do we mirror what sales is doing from a digital perspective to help, or even analog, to help kind of make sure more of those actually flow through to close one business.
So who are the personas we're talking to? At what stage in the journey are they in?
Yeah.
What content do they need at each of those stages?
Yeah.
So being able to support that with data and kind of recognize that and help the sales guys out. So, and I also think that marketing must change because of the subscription economy as well. It's not just an upfront purchase of a product. You have to continue to market throughout, don't you?
Absolutely. So as much as you have to market throughout the entire funnel, then there needs to be handoff between prospect to customer, right? Because just as you wouldn't leave your AEs to their own devices to sell net new accounts,
Yes.
you shouldn't leave your AEs or your customer success team to their own devices to renew and upsell those same accounts, right? So marketing should be providing that air cover from a digital perspective and making sure that your message is mirroring that of your sales team, those revenue generators. Because if you're marketing to them about product A, but they're talking to that customer about product B, there's going to be a disconnect there.
Oh, so interesting. Marketing is a lot more complex than it used to be, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So with all these changes in both strategies and processes, what kind of new technologies were developed over the last 5 years that you've seen to support those kinds of environments and changes?
Yeah, well, definitely a lot of the automation, and it started around the kind of marketing automation, which was a blessing and a curse, as we've kind of seen over the course of kind of that evolution over the last, 8 to 10 years. But also, the ability to personalize messages kind of digitally, digitally and even offline. We think about, website personalization strategies, which have become, kind of, if you're not personalizing your website to your target account list, you're going to get left behind, right? That message really needs to be on point with what that account needs to hear. Also advertising the same way, folks being able to personalize the advertising message. Really important. But also then from an analog perspective, we talk about, offline events, we talk about direct mail. That's been the great rebirth of direct mail has been account-based marketing, because you have a very discrete list, so you know who to send direct mail to, so you can afford budget for that, because you're going to make an impact. So
fascinating. So Jessica, there's a lot of emerging technologies that people are talking about out there today. There's big data, there's automation, there's artificial intelligence, machine learning. How are you seeing, let's just limit it to those 4 kinds of things. How are you seeing those be employed in marketing?
Yeah, so I would say that, artificial intelligence, machine learning, those are kind of a subset of broader data. And quite honestly, I think what everybody's been trying to figure out, the big buzzword last year was intent, right? How do you figure out intent so you can figure out how to prioritize your target accounts, how to get in front of them with exactly what they're looking for, and those sorts of things. And I think everybody was really interested in that last year. I think 2019 is the year people are going to figure out how to operationalize that and really get the most out of it, because intent data is coming to you constantly. So if you always react, you're going to drive yourself incredibly insane, right? But if you can harness the power of that intent data, figure out what intervals to actually react to it, which data is relevant and which one's just an extra data point. Right? And trying to figure out that's what marketers have been struggling with. And I think 2019, they're finally going to start to figure that out.
So talk to us, what does intent data mean?
Yeah, intent data, especially when it's AI driven, is all sorts of information that you would actually never be able to know otherwise. So things like, is your customer or your target account, are they on your competitor's website? What sorts of search terms are they searching on the internet for that relate to your business? Right, all of those sorts of things that will show spikes in interest, because what your sales rep is going to know is that last week they talked to that account and they just signed a 3-year contract with your competitor. So they're out, right?
Got it.
That's something intent's not going to be able to ever tell you.
Right.
But that interpersonal, interaction's going to. But the intent data is, hey, you've got a customer coming up for renewal, and you can see through intent data that they're all over your competitor's website. It's probably a red flag to your customer success team that we better get in there, because they're seriously considering our competitor.
Interesting. And so that's available because of the increase in data that's available to purchase, to collect through digital interactions, through all kinds of third-party vendors. You can pull it all together, apply some big data analytics on it and artificial intelligence to actually act on it, right?
Yep. Both first-party and third-party data.
So AdTech is the technology and the platforms that allow your actions on the screen to be personalized and then remarketed to you on different sites, right? And MarTech is the marketing technology that you might use internally, etc. Is there a convergence of that happening now?
Absolutely. Advertising was always seen as this very specialized thing over here. But I think as marketers in general have gotten more sophisticated, advertising kind of just becomes another channel. So you do, you have your digital on your website, you do your SEM, your SEO, you do your live events, and then you want to have your advertising mirror all of that, right? So we're just starting to see a convergence not only in the way that marketers think about it, but in the platforms that are being developed that have kind of all of, both MarTech and AdTech in the same platform.
Wow. So I write a lot and speak a lot at conferences on digital transformation, but I think there's no area of the business more interesting in its use of or its involvement in digital transformation than sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Because that can have such an impact on the company that's using all the new technologies, all the data that's available, and they're using it in unique ways, and it's changing up things. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So where do you see marketing continue to evolve over the next 5 years, Jessica?
Yeah, I think marketing in general is just going to keep moving down the funnel as to how much of an impact it has as far as generating revenue. So, whereas it was, a couple of years ago, it was, well, let's do as much as we can to get as many form fills on our website, and then we toss it over to marketing or over to sales.
Yes.
Then we started to develop kind of nurture tracks. So it was like, okay, we'll get that in, but then we'll nurture them for a while until they take another action, and then we'll hand it over to sales. And I think as marketers, we're able to kind of keep nurturing and keep progressing that account longer and longer online, because typically a salesperson is only talking to one or two people in an account, but we know in a B2B sale, there's another 6, 10, 12 stakeholders around that individual. And so, and where do those people typically get their information? Online. Who controls the narrative there?
Yeah.
Marketing.
Interesting.
Right? So, marketers are going to become critical. There's still the sales reps, the old school sales reps that are like, marketing, I got this, stay out of my account. But they don't really have that luxury anymore.
Yes.
Because of so much happens digitally.
Oh, yeah.
And anonymously.
So what role, and this is kind of off script, but what role does lifetime value of a customer play nowadays? Because you might look at it and say, I'm not just interested in bringing on the customer now, but keeping that customer for 8 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And does marketing, are they being brought back to customer service, into renewals and all that kind of discussion now?
Absolutely. We actually just changed our position here to be from customer marketing to customer lifecycle marketing.
Oh. And
that role is actually kind of looking at, a month before contract signature all the way through year one renewal. And kind of developing a marketing plan to kind of take them through all the way through that entire trajectory. So that, 12, 13, 14 months. And what does that look like to make sure that the conversation flows, and there's a handoff from being a prospect to a customer to make sure that we're getting things into the hands of our prospects that are going to set them up for success as a customer. And to make sure that first 90 days that we knock it out of the park, because that is so critical to the success of a customer. And for most SaaS-based companies, if those customers don't renew at the end of 1 year, you will have lost money on that account.
Absolutely.
Right? So you have to, from a marketing perspective, yes, your CS organization, your customer success organization is critical, right? And being that kind of point of contact, that main point of contact. But once again, marketing needs to provide that air cover to help ensure that that account remains with your company, and hopefully that we upsell them down the road to the next product that works for them.
I remember when marketing was all about a printout, a colored brochure that you could create and you could trifold and you could hand out at conferences. Marketing has evolved dramatically, and it's fascinating to me. What advice would you have for a young marketer just getting out of school now?
Yeah.
And they want to prepare for marketing's going to be like in 10 years. What skills should they be developing today to be ready for that change?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I think, one thing that honestly has served me really well, so, getting to marketing and marketing leadership even, was my respect for sales, right? Because there does need to be, and especially in this ABM world, there needs to be such collaboration between the two sides. Having actually been a salesperson at one point myself really gave me an appreciation for what they're, doing out there, what they're encountering. So trying to figure out how, my field marketing team can best support them, can best really be their kind of partner out in the field, to getting it all done. And my first job out of college said, the only reason I went into sales is because they were like, well, but in order to be in marketing here, you need to have been in sales for a minimum of 2 years. And at the time I didn't understand it, but I really liked the company. Yeah. So I was like, cool, I can do anything for 2 years, and then I'll come back to Wisconsin and go into marketing and do all that. Yes. Well, We know I didn't go back to Wisconsin, but I did go into marketing after that.
Yes.
And, whether everybody takes a role in actual sales or maybe an SDR or inside sales role, I think it would be really important to somehow really get into the mind of sales to understand that, because that is going to be critical to marketers' success down the line, is really understanding that whole sales process and what transpires.
So as AdTech and MarTech converge, we see almost a convergence between marketing and sales. So the more you know about sales, the better you'll be in marketing, especially when you're involved in account-based marketing with platforms like Demandbase, etc.
Exactly.
Jessica, this has been a fascinating conversation, so useful, so helpful. I hope all of you guys find it as well. Demandbase.com, I imagine.
Yep, that's it.
All right, so that's how you can find more information. I want to thank all of you guys for joining us today.
Thank you.